Hi, I'm Dr. David Geyer, orthopedic surgeon and sports medicine specialist, and I provide commentary and education on injuries and injury treatments and injury prevention in sports and exercise for athletes and active people, probably much like yourself, so that you and your kids can stay healthy and perform your best. Now, I got an email from a reader of my website last week, or maybe a couple weeks ago, that really, it was great on one hand and really kind of worrisome on the other hand. She was a high school student and she wanted to go into sports medicine. She asked me about going to medical school and what the process was after medical school, either to become an orthopedic surgeon that serves as a team physician for pro sports teams, or to work as another type of physician with pro teams. So that was great, but then she told me why she wanted to do it. See, she was a high school soccer player and she suffered 6 concussions in soccer. Eventually, she had to quit soccer because of the concussions. And so while it's great that she wants to go into sports medicine to help other athletes deal with head injuries, which is what her goal is, it's worrisome in a bigger sense that she had to quit the sport that she loved playing. Now, we think about football as being the sport most commonly associated with concussions, and it's true. For good reason, we tend to get, or we hear more about concussions in football, but we have to remember that concussions can occur in other sports. And female athletes need to be just as aware of and just as vigilant for concussions as male athletes. So here are some points that I want not just young female athletes to consider about concussions, but the coaches of girls sports and the parents of young female athletes, what I want you to consider about concussions in girls sports. First of all, girls seem to be more susceptible to concussions than boys. If you look at sports that have similar rules and similar equipment and compare concussion rates, the girls' version of the sport tends to have higher concussion rates. This is true in girls soccer compared to boys soccer. This is true in girls basketball compared to boys basketball. The girls have higher rates of concussions, and that's been shown in multiple studies. We also think that female athletes are more likely to have recurrent concussions, meaning they suffer one and then they have another one and another one, like we talked about with that reader that emailed me. She had 6 concussions. So girls seem to have more risk of recurrent symptoms or recurrent concussions. They're also more likely to have symptoms for a longer period of time. There was a study that looked at the length of time that high school female athletes had symptoms of concussions compared to the male high school athletes, and on average the girls had symptoms for about 75 days compared to about 50 days for the boys. And 2/3 of the girls in that study had symptoms, basically had concussions that kept them out for over a month. So obviously these are worrisome facts and things that we need to keep an eye on. So there's a couple points that I want to make for anyone involved in girls' sports. First of all, everyone involved in sports needs to recognize that this is a risk and evaluate female athletes with possible concussions very carefully, be it athletic trainers, being it the team doctors, the coaches, and the parents. We need to be extra vigilant identifying young female athletes that possibly have had a concussion, get it assessed. Also, just like I always say with the male athletes, you've got to have the female athlete, the girl, cleared by a doctor before she returns to play. Now, as a parent of a young female athlete, you may want to be even extra cautious. So you might take her to a sports neurologist or a doctor familiar with concussion management in athletes, and you don't let her return to play until she's completely healed. You want to minimize the chance of recurrent concussions and some of the long-term risks with head injuries. Last, just like we talk about with some of the boys' sports, I think baseline concussion testing is really important in girls' sports. This is basically the axon test or the impact test, where the team takes a neurocognitive test at the beginning of the season when they're completely healthy, and then if the female athlete suffers a concussion, then you take the test again and you compare the results after a concussion to before, and you want to see those scores get back to normal before you get back to play. There's a lot of other components of concussion management, obviously, but I think those baseline tests are critically important. So what do you think? Have you had a young female, maybe your daughter, that's had a concussion in soccer or basketball or another sport? You know, how did she do after a concussion? Did she have symptoms for a long period of time? Did the healthcare providers and the coach take it seriously? And what advice would you give to other people whose daughters may play sports and may be at risk for concussions. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So below this video, leave your comments. I would love to hear what you think on this, and I'll try to respond and reply to you as well. Now, if you like more videos like this and want more videos and information on injuries and injury treatments and injury prevention in sports and exercise, subscribe to my video page, my video channel on YouTube. I record 1 or 2 of these videos a week, and you'll get videos sent directly to you on a weekly basis. And if you have friends whose daughters may play sports, or maybe you coach girl sports, share this video with your friends, and maybe it could get them thinking about concussions in female athletes and what they could do to minimize the risks. And finally, I would very much like it to share more resources with you on ways to stay healthy and perform your best in sports and exercise. And there's some resources that I only share by email. So go to my website. You can sign up for free, drdavidgeyer.com, and I'll share resources on staying healthy and performing your best in sports and exercise with you. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. I hope it made you think about the risks of concussions in girls sports, and I look forward to seeing you right here next time.